opportunity to acquire. And welcome to Peoria City Council meeting. I hereby call this meeting of March 3rd, 2026 to order. Those who are able, please stand for the invocation by Chaplain Kyle Lane of the Peoria Fire and Medical, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you please bow your heads? Most merciful God, we come to you tonight at this place of governing with hearts full of gratitude. We're grateful for your kind and loving hand that guides us as we move through this life. We're grateful for the elected leadership who guides and watches over our city. We're grateful for Mayor Beck and the City Council who give of their time to provide direction for our city and to use their wisdom to make decisions for the benefit of the citizenry. We're grateful for the leadership of the city manager and his deputies who faithfully work to carry out the vision of the mayor and the City Council while responsibly managing the resources of the city and caring for the employees who work for them. We celebrate especially tonight the swearing in of Mr. Faust as our new city manager. We're grateful for the various city departments and the directors of those departments who work hard to make sure that Peoria is a safe and inviting community. We're grateful for the workers in the arts, culture, and library and parks and recreation departments who bring wonderful vibrancy to the city. We're grateful for those who work behind the scenes in departments like the city clerk's office, IT, emergency management, and finance. We're grateful for the offices of communications and intergovernmental affairs who help communicate the values of the city of Peoria with those in and around the city. We're grateful for public works, development and engineering, and water services who keep the infrastructure of the city running. We're thankful for cutting-edge teams in planning and economic development and the Department of Innovation who keeps the city moving forward. We're grateful for human resources in the city's attorney's office who work to protect the city and its workers. We're thankful for neighborhood and human services who work to make the city more livable and help those who are vulnerable in our community. And we're grateful for our police and fire medical departments who work day in and day out to protect the citizens of Peoria from threats, both known and unknown. We're grateful for their skills and talents, which they offer in service to the community at risk of their own safety. We pray for their protection and the protection of all those who live and work in the city of Peoria. In these uncertain times, Lord, we are grateful to be a part of a city that seeks to be a place of justice, peace, and prosperity. May you continue to guide us with your faithful love. We pray this in the name of the Sacred Three, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Beck.
Here.
Vice Mayor Finn.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bullock.
Here.
Councilmember Stokes.
Here.
Councilmember Dunn.
Here.
Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Crawford.
Here.
Mayor Beck, you have a quorum.
Thank you. If anyone would like to address the council about a matter, this is the last call for speaker requests, which can be found at the entrance of the room to the clerk at this time. I now recognize Judge John Tatz to administer the oath of office to the new city manager, Mr. Mike Faust.
Absolutely. Fair enough. All right. I state your name.
I, Mike Faust,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of city manager
discharge the duties of city manager
in Peoria, Arizona,
in Peoria, Arizona,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Awesome. We will now move on to the regular meeting consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion unless a request for removal has been received prior approval. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor, all motion.
Thank you.
Second.
And I have a second. Please vote.
Councilmember Dunn,
I vote yes.
And it passes 7-0. Thank you. We will now move to the regular agenda and introduce new business. I now recognize the new city manager, Mr. Mike Faust, to introduce one presentation for items 14R and 15R.
Thank you, Mayor. Joined at the table with the Planning Director, Chris Jaquez, is the Planning Manager, Cody Gleason. They will jointly present items 14 and 15R pertaining to a minor general plan amendment and rezone of the shops and the cove at Camino al Lago. There'll be one presentation, Mayor, with council taking two separate individual votes.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Mr. Faust. I'll make a few remarks, and as Mr. Faust indicated, Cody Gleason will be delivering the staff presentation. So the case tonight, this involves a parcel of state land that was auctioned recently. As you know, we've had a number of state land auctions that have occurred over the years, and as you know, the mission of the State Land Department is to hold land until it reaches its pinnacle in value, and then to hold a public auction with the proceeds benefiting the underlying beneficiary. In most cases, it happens to be the K through 12 schools. In this case, we had an auction about a year ago, and so what we're seeing in our development is development that has extended to these state land parcels and beyond, and so that's why you're seeing a number of these auctions. And as you know, because most of our vacant land is state land, we're going to continue to see auctions into the future. So with that, I'll hand it over to Cody.
See, I've done this before. I just didn't press the button. Thank you, Chris. Mayor and Council, thank you for having me. As Chris had mentioned, the case that we're here to talk about tonight is the northeast corner of Lake Pleasant Parkway in Deer Valley, approximately 24 acres of vacant land. And as referenced, we're looking at two actions tonight. One of those being a major general plan amendment, or I'm sorry, a minor general plan amendment, and the other a rezoning case. Ultimately, what those are looking to form is a mixed-use development consisting of about 8 acres of commercial and 16 acres of single-family residential consisting of 105 lots. So with that, to give you a little bit more context for the area that we're looking at here, really this site functions as an infill site. As you can see on the map, to the southwest, west, north, and east, you have a variety of single-family residential that comes in different forms and sizes that we'll talk about as we get into the presentation. But ultimately, all of those areas surrounding it are built out. And then to the south of the subject site, you have Camino al Lago Marketplace, which functions as a commercial center, but we're going to touch on the fact that it does in fact allow for multifamily as well. One of the things that I do want to note in regards to this site in particular, that Camino al Lago Marketplace isn't infringed upon by, is the Lake Pleasant Parkway frontage houses a considerable amount of drainage along that frontage. So it's really impacted from an access and usability standpoint. And we'll talk a little bit later about the access limitations for not only Lake Pleasant Parkway, but also Speckled Gecko and Deer Valley Road. So as Chris had mentioned, this was previously state trust land that was auctioned in April of 2025. Ultimately, this site was annexed into the city in 1981 and subsequently zoned for ag, which at the time was the comparable zoning district from what it was in the county. Ultimately, what the land use designation for the site is currently is mixed-use Main Street, and what the application is seeking is to go to mixed-use neighborhood village. And we're going to get a little bit further into what each of those mean. But just kind of wanted to give you the context of the surrounding land uses as well as the zoning. So surrounding this site, as you can see, kind of in the orange color, and hopefully that's right. I'm colorblind, so give me a guess there. But suburban residential surrounds this site to the southwest, west, north, and east, similar to the single family that actually exists out there on the site. And then to the south across Deer Valley Road, ultimately is that Camino al Lago Marketplace, which has the mixed-use designation. Surrounding this site from a zoning standpoint is a variety of PADs. Ultimately, they reflect the landforms that you see out there. So those single-family residential components are all PAD with a variety of minimum lot sizes. And then ultimately, Camino al Lago Marketplace, as I had referenced, is a PAD that allows for both commercial as well as multifamily. So to give you a little bit more in-depth in regards to what this proposal is actually for, what they're seeking is approximately 8 acres of commercial, 16 acres of single-family residential. As I had referenced, that single-family residential would house about 105 lots. And the area that you see there that's vacant, that would be the future commercial component of the site. And what I want to point out with respect to the commercial is on those prior slides, you saw Camino al Lago Marketplace, and what you probably didn't see from an access standpoint is as you continue south along Lake Pleasant Parkway, there's a number of access points into Camino al Lago Marketplace, as well as a signalized intersection off of Lake Pleasant Parkway. This site, unfortunately, due to proximity to the intersection, doesn't enjoy those same access capabilities. And what you see on the screen here are the access limitations that we would see with this development. So ultimately, for Deer Valley Road, we would be looking at median improvements that would prevent full access. So Deer Valley Road would simply be right in, right out. That access point would be shared between the single-family residential as well as the commercial. And then as you progress north and west, Lake Pleasant Parkway, again, would have right in, right out access due to the proximity to that signalized intersection so that we can ensure safe movements in and out of the property. On the north side with Speckled Gecko Drive, ultimately, both of those access points for this development would be full access. And one of the improvements that would be required for this development is completion of, you can kind of see it in between the blue arrows on Speckled Gecko Drive, but what's often referred to as a traffic football, basically a traffic calming device to attempt to slow speeds so that we don't have high speeds on a straightaway that's really intended to funnel traffic to the major arterials where you have those higher speeds. For the single family portion of the development, they are looking at about 2,900 square foot lots. And we're going to touch on the context of that and how we arrive at that particular sizing as we go on. But ultimately, that translates to about 4.4 dwelling units per acre when you're looking at the entire 24-acre site. So for that development form, the commercial component is not yet contemplated in a site plan. So that is something that we would see as an administrative review through the planning department in the future. But ultimately, the single family would be coming in first, and that piece would be for those 105 homes. The distinctive feature of those homes is that they would be alley-loaded homes, and ultimately that's how you get to that 2,900 square foot lot size, is because really you're accessing vehicularly the homes from the back. The pedestrian access to those homes is typically along a paseo, as you can see kind of in the middle of the screen, so that there's essentially a shared walkway and the homes front onto that walkway and green space, rather than your traditional single-family residential that you'd be fronting onto a lot. Something of note here is really the focus on the connectivity and the amenities within the development. So the areas that you see in blue are the open space areas that are proposed for the single family component. The area in orange is what's referenced as their primary amenity area. Typically, single family residential doesn't have a amenity requirement. We simply have open space requirements. In this case, in order to ensure that we had a community that was compatible with the surroundings, we wanted to make sure that the amenity package really was reflective of those surrounding community components. So in evaluating the land use, really what we're looking at is compatibility. Context is probably one of the most important things that we can look at when we're evaluating a land use transition and or a rezoning case. So in this case, they are looking to modify the land use designation from mixed use Main Street to mixed use neighborhood village. For folks other than planners, what that ultimately means is we're trying to identify a certain form that the mixed-use development would take. And ultimately, mixed-use Main Street calls for that typical vertical mixed-use development that you see in a Kierland Commons, something of that intensity and density so that you can have those narrowed streetscapes, the retail or commercial on the bottom floor, and then ultimately residential on the upper floors. What this application is seeking to do is to transition to mixed-use neighborhood village. And ultimately, what mixed-use neighborhood village calls for is context-sensitive development rather than simply focusing on the intensity of the development. They're evaluating those perimeter conditions and the context of the area. So what this is looking to do is ensure that we have compatibility and transition from those surrounding development patterns to this development and ultimately to the arterial intersection. So that's kind of the focus of the analysis, is to evaluate, is this the appropriate scale and intended form for the development, being that they are both mixed-use land use categories. So what I wanted to touch on with respect to lot sizes is the character of the surrounding area. So as you are looking at the meadows, in particular to the north and east of this property, you're looking at about 5,000 and 6,000 square foot lots. Now, as you kind of fan out from this surrounding area, you extend into larger lots. So it goes from 5,000 and 6,000 square foot lots, 7, 8, 10, 12, and then ultimately, when you get to the northeast corner of the development at 91st and Pinnacle Peak, you're looking at about 18 to 24,000 square foot lots. So there was intentional intensity driven as you approach the arterial intersection of Lake Pleasant Parkway and Deer Valley Road. Ultimately, this infill piece is looking to continue that development pattern and form as you approach the intersection. Additionally, when you're looking at it in the context of Casa del Rey, that has, which is the west side of Lake Pleasant Parkway, that has a very similar development pattern. So at the arterial parkway intersection, you're looking at about 2,800 square foot lots. And then as you fan out from that, it goes up to about 5,000 and 6,000 square foot lots as you get further and further away from Lake Pleasant and Deer Valley. And then Camino al Lago Parcel 12 ultimately is very similar to the lots in the area at about 5,000 square feet. So commercial uses were a particular focus on this development. And what it utilizes as the base is C2, or what's known as intermediate commercial. Ultimately, what that is your typical arterial intersection commercial that you see throughout the city. C2 is our most prevalent commercial zoning district. And ultimately, it's what the use listing within Camino al Lago Marketplace to the south points to as well. The difference that we have here, and I'll touch a little bit more on it, is the focus and the kind of caveats or carve-outs with respect to the commercial uses. This was the result of a lot of feedback, not only from the citizens within the community, but ultimately staff, and thanks to Councilmember Edwards for focusing the attention on ensuring that we had a commercial use listing that was compatible with the area and ultimately kind of pointed away from what you could view as typical commercial uses. So for instance, gas stations, car washes, any number of drive-through restaurants. Here we really focused in on what will work with the compatibility of the mixed-use intent and the surrounding areas without making it to where somebody has to get in their car from the residential component just to go to the commercial. So with that, the auto-oriented uses are prohibited with the exception of one standalone drive-through as well as one drive-through as a part of a multi-tenant building, bank, or pharmacy. So those are the caveats for those use listings there. With the rezoning request, as I had referenced, this is seeking to go from ag to, or agriculture to PAD. Ag is typically known as a holding district. Ultimately, I've been here 19 years. I've never seen us rezone to ag. Typically, a property as it's annexed in from the county will utilize that as a comparable zoning district. And then ultimately, when the property is ripe for development, we'll see an application to rezone the property. In this case, the form that takes is a PAD. And ultimately, that PAD is to focus those context-sensitive matters with respect to the uses, things like access, the amenity packages, to ensure that we have a development form that fits with the area. As with any entitlement case, the city does require a variety of notices that go to not only property owners within the area, but HOAs. We require a legal ad and a sign be posted on the site. We also incorporate the Peoria Unified School District in this case, or the relevant school district in other areas, as a part of the comments for the application. And I'll transition over to ultimately the feedback that we received from them. But we require these notice practices not only for hearings, but also prior to the neighborhood meeting, with the exception of the legal ad. So with that, we did hold one neighborhood meeting on October 15th. At Sunrise Mountain Library. We did have 12 residents in attendance in regards to that neighborhood meeting. There's a variety of comments at the neighborhood meeting. They focused on items ranging from traffic comments, the land use of the property. One of the commenters identified that they wanted to see a singular use across the property being commercial. Another identified that they wanted to see a singular use being residential across the property. So a variety of feedback was received at that neighborhood meeting. As a result of that, and again, staff comment and thankfully the coordination from Councilmember Edwards, we were able to arrive at something that really functioned for the surrounding context, and that was those use limitations, focusing on limiting the drive-throughs to 2, prohibiting all other auto-related uses, and then really focusing on the character and amenities within this to ensure that the uses are compatible and work together, which really is the focus of a mixed-use development. Is it shouldn't be 2 uses walled off right next to each other. They should function and have a synergy together in order to make a compatible land use. Something that I do want to note on here are the minimum access points, one of which we are seeking from the intersection there. So you can see that star just east of the arterial intersection that is looking for pedestrian access as close as possible to the intersection where pedestrians would arrive from the signal, but trying to get them into the commercial center as quickly as possible so that they can then use the internal circulation rather than walking along the arterial roadway. So city staff held a hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission on February 19th. We did have one speaker at that meeting. That individual was in support of the case, and ultimately Planning Commission voted to approve the both actions 6-0 for recommendation to City Council. Staff has received communications from residents throughout the process. We've also received additional communications which are part of your council packet and the addendum to that. But ultimately, staff received one letter in opposition. That opposition letter identified concerns with incompatibility with the surrounding developments, the resulting property values from this development, traffic, and then ultimately an indication that this proposal would not meet the intent of the plan, again, focusing on compatibility with the meadows. The 6 items in support, or 6 individuals in support, did cite that they did want to see commercial uses on the property. They were happy to see a variety of housing options being provided within the area, and then ultimately the mixed use fulfillment of the general plan land use designation on the site. PUSD did provide a letter of support for this application. They identified that for their enrollment numbers, they have seen a decline due to a variety of reasons. They cited lower birth rates, ESA scholarships, and ultimately competition that they're finding with the charter schools in the area. So as a result, staff finds that the general plan amendment, item 14R, is a sensible continuation of the land use pattern within the area. Again, going from those larger lots and the lower intensity away from the intersection, ultimately increasing as you approach the intersection of Lake Pleasant and Deer Valley. And it meets the not only the infill goals and policies of the general plan, but also the housing and lifestyle categories. Item 15R, the rezoning request, ultimately is well below the density range for mixed-use neighborhood village, which allows 12 to 20 dwelling units per acre. This is coming in at 4.4, which is right around the range of the surrounding Meadows development, a little bit over, and then provides for a cohesive transition with the surrounding developments.
It's your recommendation?
Yep. Mayor, council members, city staff, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend that the council adopt Resolution 2026-33 as recommended by the Planning Commission. And item 15R, adopt ordinance 2026-07, subject to the conditions of approval. And with that, we can.
Awesome, thank you. With that, Councilmember Edwards has a question for you.
Thank you, Mayor. Cody or Chris, what's the typical process for this outreach in this particular case?
Mayor, council members, thank you for the question, Councilmember Edwards. This was a very typical process in terms of length and type. The outcome was great, as we had a lot of, a lot of participation by the public and then through your office as well. But just to step back a little bit, we often get a lot of discussions that come through our door, either through pre-application meetings or just regular meetings. And we sit down with these individuals and we talk about not only technical requirements, but also process requirements. And in some cases, they don't proceed forward, right? And in others, they do. And so a lot of times the public doesn't see those that don't proceed forward. Those that do have already had some initial level of vetting with the staff. And so this was one of those cases. And so the auction took place about a year ago, last February of last year. There were a number of pre-application meetings that occurred about that time. And so when they submitted their application in July, there was already a lot of information that was provided to the applicant and a lot of discussions that had occurred. But really over the last 8 months, and that is a typical timeframe for a case like this, there are a number of notification options that Cody enumerated that go out to the public, when the application comes in prior to the meeting notice. And that's an opportunity for the public to learn more about the application, ask questions, get involved, submit comments to the city so that we can help shape the application. And then there are opportunities to participate directly through the neighborhood meeting and through the public hearing process that results. And so I think from that, I think we've got to a very good outcome here, in that the application, as Cody mentioned, has evolved quite a bit in terms of the use listings being limited and the final result and the cohesiveness of the project.
Thank you. So just one more question. So for the viewing public, we've spent a good year on this project. So what changes from the initial first proposal that was brought in to where we are now? Can you help identify some of those changes?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Edwards. Ultimately, this started out as simply a bubble plan with the first pre-app, and we did have 2 pre-apps on this application. The second pre-app that had a gas station, a car wash, and multiple drive-throughs. When we saw the formal submittal as a result of coordination with your office, and then ultimately feedback from staff, we continued to narrow down that auto-centric focus of the development with the third iteration that we saw. It had 3 drive-throughs, and then ultimately we landed on the changes that would prohibit auto-oriented uses with the exception of those 2 drive-through pieces.
So we obviously just didn't take the first review and rubber stamp it. So we've spent a year going through multiple reviews to get it to where it is today, correct?
Mayor, Councilmember Edwards, that's correct. And a lot of behind the scenes communication and coordination with the applicant team to continue to refine that and resolve the issues.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'm really happy this isn't anything to do with Mesquite District for the first time in a year. So thank you. It's nice to be able to just sit back and relax and listen. Now, the reason why I want to say something, I think it's important to note that I want to give kudos to Councilmember Edwards for the simple reason that, and I've heard from residents in my district, and just innocently, that they think we kind of exist in silos. I mean, all I do is pay attention to Mesquite District. All he does is pays attention to Willow District, and so on and so on and so forth. When really, ultimately, we're voting as council members on everyone's district, what's going on. And so just compliments to Councilmember Edwards. We've had discussions back and forth, emails, he's answered questions. It's close enough to where I live. It's not my district, but it's close enough. I drive by, use that Walmart. I've been asking questions about it. He's been filling me in. We even had a discussion, a phone call this morning for some last little, nitpick questions that I had, just to make sure I understood it so I can vote, because I am supporting it, even though it's not in my district. So I just want to say thank you. We don't exist in silos. We exist, we work with your teams, we work with each other, and we make our own decisions. And ultimately, we hope things move forward as we worked hard to do. So thank you very much, Councilmember Edwards. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we're going to the speakers here. So we have Kristen Williams.
Sorry, Mayor, I'm sorry. I think we have to open the public hearing first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize. All right, so no further discussions. Actually, that's not the process. So you want to open a public hearing in this process?
Public hearings tonight.
Okay. All right, so we'll open the public hearing for the 14R, so I should announce 14R and 15R in that process. So we'll open a public hearing for 14R and 15R. Okay, so now go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Beck and Peoria City Council. My name is Christian Williams. I've lived in Peoria for 30 years, and I've lived in Camino Lago since 2011. I also serve on the HOA and sub-association just west of this project. I want to express my support for the proposed general plan amendment and the rezoning for the shops in Cova Camino Lago. While I was initially very hesitant about changing the general plan designation from mixed-use Main Street to mixed-use neighborhood village, that concern was largely tied to their original rezoning request. My neighbors and I were not interested in another corner dominated by multiple drive-throughs, car washes, and gas stations, especially when we already have a car wash and a gas station auto repair right across the street. Duplicating those uses does not do anything to create a vibrant or distinctive gateway for Camino Lago. I appreciate that the applicant listened and our council member across the street listened to the community and significantly reduced those concerns by limiting the standalone drive-throughs to 2 total, 1 being an end cap, and restricting those automotive uses. This creates spaces for restaurants, retail, and services that our area currently lacks. I also support the residential component. Camino Lago already offers a large range of housing from the half-acre lots up on Pinnacle to traditional homes and cluster products, but we don't have alley-loaded single-family homes for small households, working professionals, or residents looking for lock-and-leave lifestyles. For that, you generally have to go to Gilbert or Scottsdale, and with all the jobs they're building up on 303, we need opportunities for people to buy in Peoria and no more build-to-rents, so we like that. And they also have an amenity which is going to make this area very nice, and then they won't be jumping the wall to hang out in our pools. I'm also grateful for the applicant's attention to connectivity, open space, and architectural compatibility with Camino Lago, as well as their commitment to carrying forward that Camino Lago identity. Given the concessions they've made and the improvements to the plan they've made, I'd respectfully ask that the council support the application so that the last remaining undeveloped parcel in Camino Lago becomes high quality and well integrated with our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Anders Nelson.
Hi, Mayor Beck and council members. My name is Anders Nelson. I am a resident of the Meadows, and I've lived in Camino Lago since 2011. I'm also voicing my support for this project. After some initial concern, there's been some changes that I think have addressed my concern. So I was initially concerned about safety. There was a fatality on Deer Valley a couple years ago, and with the traffic and speeding, unfortunately, around the area, I was concerned about, especially on speckled gecko, about increased safety. So I think there's a traffic circle now that was put on speckled gecko, and then some of the other changes to the plan. I think that addresses the safety concerns. I've also talked to some of my neighbors, and again, some of their opinions differ on this, but I think safety was always kind of underlying on their concerns. So again, I'm in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Supervisor Galvin.
Mayor Beck, members of the council, do you want a full presentation, or do you just want us to respond to comments in the 3 minutes allotted? I can do either.
Whatever you feel. I don't think presentation, I think we covered, I think.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members, and particularly Councilman John Edwards. Thank you so much. I'm Thomas Galvin with Rose Law Group on behalf of the applicant, Lennar Homes. I really want to thank staff for their diligence and their hard work over the past year, but really want to thank Councilman Edwards for his leadership. This is a project that he was intimately involved with and provided a lot of feedback, not just based on his ideas, but on what he was hearing from his constituents and what he was thinking was best, not only for his district, but as Mayor Pro Tem Bullock pointed out, what was best for the city of Peoria. A couple of things I do want to highlight that you did not hear in the presentation that I think is really important is the applicant Lennar Homes is one of the best home builders, if not the best home builder in the United States of America. And the fact that they want to do a beautiful project here in Peoria, I think speaks volumes for the city and for the leadership of the mayor and the council. But they're also working in conjunction with the Barclay Group. They're also here as well behind me, always available to answer any technical questions for you. But some of the projects they have done here include Vistancia Point in Peoria, and what Lennar has done is Acacia Grove. So just want to point out that we fully respect everything that staff pointed out to us and what Council Member Edwards pointed out to us. Fully okay with all of the points and stipulations here, and really appreciate your leadership and cooperation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Christine Cook.
Good evening. I wasn't planning on speaking. Christian made me come, but so thank you for having us. I'm also on the HOA at the housing development across the street from this project, and I support what they have proposed. And my request is a country bar. Say anything but for the neighborhood community that we can walk over to. Just like they have across the street, that's nice. The Peoria Brewery and, the tailgaters and things like that in the EOS. It's, it's a neighborhood community. I like to keep it that way. No more storage units or all these drive-through restaurants. So, and thank you for listening to us. Yeah. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Scott Phillips.
Mayor Beck, members of the council, just found out about this. I've been a 24-year resident of Peoria, and I want to commend staff, the property owner, Lennar Homes, for putting together a plan that is continuing to take Peoria to the next level in terms of housing quality and variety. Having an alley-loaded product, Christian is absolutely right. We don't have it here. We need more of it. My only comment is, as a city, with everything that's happening up in the Peoria Innovation Core, with all the emphasis on making this not just a regional and national, but an international destination for major employment, we need to expand our housing opportunities. I would push for more density. My kids grew up in this city. I don't think they could afford to live in this city right now. They can't afford to buy a house. Townhomes, condos, I think we all know that there's legislation moving forward to hopefully limit the construction liability for condos. Hopefully the city of Peoria is all on board with that. But for this specifically, I kudos to staff, kudos to the property owner. This is the exact type of project that I hope to continue to see happen in the city of Peoria. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, sir. All right, with that, we will close public hearing. And we will, council, do I have a motion to approve 14R?
Mayor, I'll motion.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Please vote.
Councilmember Dunn,
I vote yes.
Thank you, and it passes 7-0. Council, do I have a motion to approve agenda item 15R?
Motion to approve 15R.
Do I have a second?
second.
First and second. Council, please vote.
Councilmember Dunn,
I vote yes.
And it passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentations. I now recognize City Manager Mr. Mike Faust to introduce 16R.
Thank you, Mayor. Looks like Mr. Jaquez is staying at the table, and he's being joined by Planning Deputy Director Lori Deaver. They will jointly present item 16R, which is code modernization to concur with the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, amending various sections of Chapter 21, which includes operational limitations for car washes and service stations and aligning duration of political signs. With that, Chris, please take it away.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Faust, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, like the last one, I'll provide a few remarks and then hand it over to Lori Deaver, our Deputy Director. So the title of this amendment, Code Modernization, admittedly is a little cryptic, but this started out largely as a housekeeping amendment. But when we do code amendments, it's an opportunity, there's a process around it, there's an opportunity to open up the code and look for other things that we can improve. We can improve clarity, add definitions, and that's what we've chosen to do here. So while you'll see in your packet what looks to be very extensive changes, really the large majority of the changes tonight are housekeeping in nature. We're moving sections from one area to another. We're adding definitions. We're improving clarity. There's other formatting tables and cleanups. And so while when we talk about reformatting the code, it's not always the sexiest topic, I should say that I do want to publicly recognize and thank Lori for her work. This was really a big lift. She's got a great eye for design. We have to, at the end of the day, we have to administer this code, and it has to make sense and be in a format that's easy for all of us to use. And so she's really done a great job on this. And so thank you for that, Lori. So in addition, as we mentioned in the intro, there are some substantive changes that we want to walk you through tonight. They pertain to topics that we covered at a recent council retreat, things like gas stations and car washes. So the changes we're talking about tonight are not extensive. We're not trying to stifle the market, but we are trying to introduce some reasonable measures to limit conditions of oversaturation. So with that, Lori.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as noted, this amendment is comprised of changes to 5 sections of the zoning ordinance, with the most prominent modifications being the inclusion of operational limitations for gas stations and car washes. While those modifications are substantial, I want to take a few moments to highlight key items in each section, starting with section 100, which is administration. This in particular sets the ground rules for how staff reviews cases and how we process those. And one of the heavier used tables within here is our notification table. And by that, we talk about our postcards that are sent out, our legal ads, site posting, anything that's required for public notice on a particular case. Unfortunately, our current table is not comprehensive. It doesn't list all of the case types, and the result is people are having to flip multiple pages in order to find those regulations. And the existing format of the table does leave the most seasoned planners scratching their head trying to find regulations and to translate. So what you see on the screen is a reformatted version. It now includes all cases from A, admin relief, to Z, which is zoning ordinance text amendment. And when you look at the columns to the right, they're color-coded. Each notice type has a color. The columns are consistently labeled, and the notice types are listed in the order that they would occur during the process. So hopefully a step in the right direction. Second notable change is regarding what we're talking about this evening, which is code amendments. The state only requires a legal ad for code changes such as this. However, Peoria far exceeds state mandated requirements, and in particular for our code amendments. More specifically, for the last few years, the department's policy has been to publish our draft code changes well in advance of the public meetings. Tonight, we are asking to formally adopt that practice into the code. Lastly, some of the planners got a little verbose in the conversation, so the language was not as consistent in talking about neighborhood meetings between rezoning cases and conditional use permits. So we've made it more consistent, and it's straightforward. Next is our definition section. What I would point out to you is this includes both definitions and land use classifications, and this is heavily used when we're administrating the code. When we talk about definitions, it's the shared vocabulary between staff, developers, their consultants, and our residents. And we are using this when we're talking about development regulations such as building height, setbacks, and lot coverage. Alternatively, land use classifications are typically used by the zoning administrator, typically Chris, to determine where a business can go and what it's classified in, which I'll touch on in the next slide. So while there is a definition section within the ordinance, unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of care in past amendments, and so we have a number of definitions scattered throughout the ordinance. This particular amendment takes those definitions out of the other 2 sections and puts them into one central location. And you see that on the screen noted in green. When definitions have been rendered either obsolete or ineffective, we've taken the opportunity to strike those definitions from the code. Those are noted in red. When we've been missing a definition or a land use classification, those are showing in blue. So the color coding that you see on the screen not only helps to explain those changes being proposed, it's actually necessary for our codifier to translate what is being adopted online. So yes, there is a method to the madness, and the planners didn't get crazy with the crayons when you see on the screen. So in all seriousness, these new land use classifications domino and do the heavy lifting for what we'll see in the non-residential section. When you see automotive and vehicle repair, 2 definitions allow us to eliminate 4 lines within a table to streamline, so there's uniformity. In the instance of general retail, that one definition alone allows us to strike 14 lines in the code where there were duplications. Lastly, cosmetic tattooing. I do want to touch on this. It's been a new use that has been more prevalent within the last 5 years. This is different than traditional tattoos in the fact that they are regulated through a cosmetology license. The duration is much different than a regular tattoo. It will only last 6 months to 3 years. So if you're not feeling inclined and just want to test it out, you would go to a salon, boutique, etc. For those that want to do permanent makeup, this is what they would typically use for cosmetic tattooing. And because of these distinctions, the licensing, the durability, etc., we recognize that it's through a normal salon. And so therefore, it fits differently within the code. There are no changes to traditional tattoo studios. Next, and I think what the planners are most excited about, is the land use matrix. This is so heavily used when we are working with and locating businesses within the community. This is the first table. A lot of the categories we've either renamed or added so that they make sense. This is now consistent across the codes within the valley. We've consolidated similar uses to reduce repetitiveness. So that's where you see the strike-throughs on the screen. We've also provided breadcrumbs for those who are not familiar with our codes. So we have the land use classification, where they can go in the zoning district, and then we provide a cross-reference to where they can find operational limitations, and those become important for those businesses to operate successfully within Peoria. So let's touch on that for a moment. As we made significant alterations within the table, so too we did for the operational standards. And this is where Chris noted our most notable adjustments include regulations now for service stations and car washes proposed with this amendment. So let me touch on that. Starting with service stations, the existing regulations allow unrestricted access and location on any intersection. The only requirement, it has to have a minimum 500-foot separation on the same side. So as we've seen in a couple of instances, in particular 83rd Avenue, Deer Valley, and I would offer up 75th Avenue in Peoria, you end up with 3 stations on the corner. 3 out of the 4 corners have service stations. The proposed regulations tonight would limit that to max 2 when the street or intersection is an arterial to an arterial intersection, and arterial to Parkway intersection, as we see up north with Lake Pleasant Parkway. It still allows maximum of 1, think of the Rio Vista area, when it's an arterial and collector intersection. So this would reduce the number of allowances of service stations. It still maintains the separation between facilities on the same side. Secondly, car washes. And this had additional discussion with Commission as we were going through the study session. Our existing code has unrestricted, no operational requirements for car washes whatsoever. We've heard the concerns both from council and our residents: oversaturation, traffic circulation, noise from the equipment, environmental and water usage. The city has taken mitigation measures in the form of the large water user ordinance that was adopted. However, these are allowed through a conditional use permit process, and while it does allow the city to manage the noise and traffic concerns, the CUP process does not have the ability to address oversaturation. So in order to specifically address council's concerns regarding proliferation of gas stations, staff proposed a 1 mile separation between the facilities with the new code. However, the Planning Commission, like many others in our community, are cautious to recommend adopting such prescriptive measures unless there is tangible evidence that such mitigation measure is warranted and would be effective. So to that end, Commission asked staff to conduct an inventory analysis and deeper dive into the existing spaces between the existing facilities. What we found is approximately 24 facilities within and immediately adjacent to the Peoria city limits. Of those 24, 7, or less than 30%, would be able to achieve that 1 mile separation should that condition be in place today. Of the 17 not meeting that condition, they have more than 2 car washes located in less than 1 mile. In particular, 7 are located in Acacia, 7 in Palo Verde. And as you drive along Thunderbird, the closest spacing, 4 are located from 79th Avenue to 87th Avenue. And that's within less than a half a mile apart from one another. If you extend further out at 67th and T-Bird, 2 additional car washes are along that corner as well, 1 in Glendale, 1 in Peoria. So we obviously, from the data, recognize that they are not spacing at least 1 mile apart. So in the discussion, what I would also offer up in the analysis was the longevity of these uses as well. We were not seeing car washes close on any sort of regular basis. In fact, there's significant operations that once they establish, they remain in place. As such, staff recommended and commission agreed with the 1 mile separation between the facilities as noted. What I would also offer up is the solidification of the good neighbor policy requirements that we often see in the conditions of approval through the CUP, recognizing the separation requirements from residential, the sound attenuating through the building design, and the hours of operation. To address Commission's concern as what if, staff identified that there are existing avenues within the code that we can address and the developers can take advantage of now. They could either choose to rezone the property to a PAD, they can modify an existing PAD to allow a car wash to go there, or they can request a variance if they want to reduce that 1 mile spacing. All of these options currently exist and would be available should applications want to go forward and need to adjust requirements. Lastly, I'll make 2 quick notes. I told you we modified section definitions out of other sections. That's effectively what happened in 600. All those definitions were carried over and centralized. But the last highlight I do want to touch on is political signs. The code now aligns with state statutes. And as we've seen in both prior legislation and this year, there has been bills in the works with potentially changing the duration. So this modification allows us to always be in alignment with whatever those requirements would be. I'll note from a correspondence standpoint, we did receive 1 letter of opposition that was related to council's past action on middle housing. This text amendment does not impact, adjust, or modify any of those regulations that were prior adopted. We did have a public hearing on February 19th. Commission voted 6-0, recommending approval to City Council. And this is in keeping with the general plan requirements, which require us to maintain and adjust city policy and regulations to maintain ease of use, efficiency, and effectiveness. With that, we are recommending, in alignment with Commission, to adopt Ordinance 2026-06. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Councilman Crawford.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I just have a comment to make, and just thank you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of hearts of many of the constituents in Acacia District. You know, if anybody needs to get their car washed, just drive up 67th Avenue from here. You'll have plenty of options, as well as across Thunderbird into the Palo Verde District. So thank you very much for taking this under consideration. And I hope my fellow council members will agree with me on that.
Council, I have a motion to approve agenda item 16R.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second? Please vote.
Excuse me.
Councilmember Dunn, how do you vote?
Absolutely, yes.
And it passes 7-0. Thank you. I now recognize City Manager Mr. Mike Faust to introduce 17R.
Sorry about that. Interim Deputy City Manager Chris Hallett will join us to present item 17R pertaining to a development disposition agreement between the city and Newtown Community Development Corporation for the conveyance of an underutilized parcel and subsequent development of a long-term affordable housing here in downtown Peoria. Mr. Hallett.
Thank you, Mr. Faust, Mayor and Council. That is on it. Thank you. Mayor and Council, I'm excited to be here. Since the moment the city purchased the car wash at 85th and Washington, I was hopeful that we'd be here, especially before I retired, to be able to present something like this here. But everything has a due process to go through, so we went through a fully vetted process, which I'll cover with you tonight. Hopefully leads to the support of some great development for our exciting revitalized downtown that's happening before our eyes. This is a rendering of the development as developed in Avondale, so we're going to have a modified version of this based on the site, but it just gives you a look and feel from the street what this might look like. So we're here to ask approval for a development and disposition agreement with Newtown Community Development Corporation. Effectively, it will be transferring that property to Newtown and its community land trust and authorizing newly appointed City Manager Mike Faust to sign all related documents. The site itself is northeast corner, 85th and Washington. The 3 X's indicating the number of units planned for the site. It's bordered to the north by a commercial center and an alley. That's where Peoria meanders to the north in order to align and cross Grand. So we initially vetted this for any potential commercial use, and we got nothing. That combined with, and is probably just given the site constraints and the adjacent properties are all residential. So the first 7 parcels east of 85th on both sides of Washington are residential once this is developed. The car wash was a bit of an anomaly if anybody ever drove by when it was there. So it was a nice thing to come down, and we think with this development it'll be a nice entryway and proven walkability to the revitalization that's happening downtown. So underutilized, yes, it could complete the existing residential segment of Washington with more residential, and it would support the city's affordable housing objectives that we talked about in December. They have planned 3 for-sale affordable housing units. This would be delivered through a community land trust mechanism. That ensures long-term affordability through sale and resale restrictions, meaning they all have to be to income-eligible homebuyers, and ongoing stewardship while enabling income-qualified homeownership in perpetuity, basically. So what does all that mean? Well, this is the site plan drafted for this. So the square parcel, which would be subparceled into 3 different parcels for each unit, that would be donated and put into the land trust. Newtown would develop the 3 units, as we'll show later in the presentation, and then there will be a long-term, often a 99-year lease at no cost to the buyer of the improvements. So the buyer ultimately is only buying the housing and not the underlying land. That helps maintain the low cost and the affordability. Questions asked after briefings here is will there be exterior walls? Yes, there'll be an exterior wall along 85th, the alley, and the adjacent property on the east. Are there opportunities for signage for the downtown? Yes, we were already thinking of that. We talked to Newtown as a possibility of a sign easement, so we can use it as one of maybe our 3 monuments indicating the downtown as we're redeveloping it, and they were all in favor of that. So this is a street view from Washington looking north, one story on the left where 85th is, and up to 2-story with adjacent residential property on the right side. So what does today's action cover? The DDA includes a land donation to Newtown and into the land trust. It also has safeguards that if the homes aren't built and or they're not maintained affordably for affordable ownership, they would revert back to the city. What's not in the DDA or today's action, but does exist in other contracts, would be construction schedule and milestones, although their target is, they're really hopeful to have it done by the end of 27, if not the mid-28. It does not include design and construction requirements. They were waiting for the item you just heard for some zoning remodifications down there to allow for single-family residential on this site, as well as they want to wait for approval of the DDA before they enter into permitting. They do have financing all set, and I'll explain a little bit more. How we got here, we took a leap back in December of 24. We allocated some ARPA funds to do some pre-development, site feasibility, and the environmental, since there would be federal funds in this. That took over a year to complete, but they're surprisingly, we were hopeful, but surprisingly, being a car wash site, there were no mitigations needed to be had. So that was a relief to keep the costs down. That, coupled with the fact the city owns it, allowed for Newtown to apply to the Maricopa County Home Consortium as a comprehensive housing development organization for a separate set-aside of funding. Again, grant funds help lower the costs, and that can be passed on to the home ownerships. This became a shovel-ready application for them. You took that was actually on 9C on the consent agenda, is to support in compliance with our con plan for this affordability project. So they were awarded funding in this year, and they're going to ask for even more funding next year. So fiscally, there's no funds being done in this action. It's simply the contribution of the land to the land trust. It's estimated at $261,000 for the development pro forma that they have. And again, that cost will not be passed on to the ultimate home buyers. Key takeaways, they have the necessary reversionary clauses to come back to the city if it's not built and or not sold to affordable income eligible buyers. And they must maintain the long-term affordability. Again, all these efforts help support the feasibility of this project and reduce the total development cost to meet our affordability objectives. So with that, staff's asked recommendation to approve the DDA to effectuate this transaction.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions or discussion? None? Oh. Councilor Finn. Councilor Finn.
Aye, Captain. So just a couple of questions, just maybe for clarification for me and maybe for the public on here. So we donate this land, it goes into a trust, if I understand it correctly, and then there's a 99-year lease associated with that trust for the people that purchase that land. So they own the building, the ownership of the land stays in the trust, correct? Okay.
So, yes, go ahead.
Not that I will be here, but at the end of a 99-year lease, where does that land go?
They'll renew another 99-year lease. So there's a lease between the land trust and the first home buyer.
The trust conveys with basically the property. So if somebody purchases it, they continue on with that trust, and then once the trust expires, then they can renew that trust?
No. So the trust owns it in perpetuity.
Okay.
The owner is buying the improvements, the dwelling.
Yep.
And with that, they could live there for up to 99 years.
Okay.
If they want to sell it, they have to sell it back to the land trust, who then resells it to another income eligible with a new 99-year lease. And that's the long-term perpetuity, is each resale has to go back through the land trust for resale to an income qualified buyer.
And there's a new, I don't know why I'm curious about this, but there's a new 99-year trust that's associated with that as opposed to them
Each buyer.
assuming the remainder of the original 99-year trust?
They're all separate, yeah.
Okay.
The land trust owns the
I got it.
land, and in perpetuity, everybody can have up to a 99-year lease.
Okay.
With that ownership.
And the gift of public funds is mitigated, the concern with that is mitigated because of what it's going to in this trust, correct?
Correct. It's a public benefit
Yep.
as being required through our federal funding, so that CHOTO grant, as well as I believe they'll be coming in for, and the ARPA funds we put into it require that, well, it doesn't require we donate the land, no. No, the public benefit is the affordability that the city's obtaining for 20 years plus in perpetuity.
Okay, and then probably a burning question for some people that might be watching this. What is that income level that allows people to, what's the threshold there that once you go over that, you're not eligible?
So it depends on family size, but 80% of area median income, roughly around 73,000 for a family of 4.
Okay.
What this allows is on the sale is they can meet their income. So if they're at 80%, you know, they're not, as we discussed in December, cost burdening is anything you spend more than 30% of your income towards your housing.
Yep.
So they're able to meet that through these reductions.
Okay, all right, great, thank you, appreciate that.
Councilor Crawford.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment about this, that even when we discussed this parcel with the downtown redevelopment working group, lots of great ideas for a commercial product. And as much as I would like to see a commercial product here, I understand the site constraints make that extremely challenging, if not impossible. So thank you to the working group for all your fantastic ideas on the commercial uses. I do feel like this is a fantastic alternative, seeing that there's other residential adjacent to this parcel. But I don't want to throw a curveball. However, for people who aren't familiar with Newtown and our partnership with Newtown, do you know how many projects we have partnered with them in the city over the years, or how long? Because I know this isn't a new partnership.
Correct. Mayor, Councilmember Crawford, Newtown's been in existence since 1994. They originated out of Tempe. Tempe, you know, is landlocked. It's not very big, 35, 40 square miles. It was a necessity for them in order to maintain affordability proximate to the university. So they've been East Valley driven for many years. It's only been recently that they ventured into the West Valley. We were one of the first cities to venture with them. To date, we have federal funds that we dispense. I know several of you are on the subcommittee tomorrow for grants. So a lot of our federal funds have historically gone through Habitat for acquisition, rehab, and resale to meet the affordability needs of those federal funds. We've done 69 affordable housing units, mostly through Habitat in the city. 13 of those have been done in the downtown area itself, and about 6 just on the other side of 85th. So we've been doing it. We've done about 5 units with Newtown, but this is the first time we're doing new construction. Everything else, so this is a +3 net new addition to address our housing affordability gap in the 80% AMI or lower. Very excited about that.
Awesome, thank you. Council, do I have a motion to approve agenda item 17R?
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second. Council, please vote.
Councilmember Dunn, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And it passes 7-0. Thank you. Thank you. I now recognize City Manager, Mr. Mike Faust, to give his report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to read some things. Normally I wing it each time I speak with you, so this is a new one for me. And congratulations, Chris, on getting this last one over the finish line. There we go. So on the theme of downtown revitalization, I'll highlight a project the team's been working on. So back in November 19th of 2024, Council approved an allocation of ARPA funds, of the American Rescue Plan Act dollars, to support the revitalization of businesses along Grand. So inside of that project, $320,000 or so was earmarked for curb appeal and safety of small businesses along Grand. So the strategy essentially was to put up a grant dollars equal to 50% of the project, not to exceed $15,000. Interestingly enough, the team really had to work hard to get businesses to take those funds, but we're here tonight to celebrate a couple of the wins along the way. So on the graphic, which is a little hard to see, the yellow boundaries is the area of businesses that qualify for the grant. The 7 green dots on the slide represent the first $62,000 that's been approved for the grant expenditures. The 2 yellow dots represent businesses that have completed their revitalizations without grants, so through the encouragement and activities they got going. The 5 blue dots are businesses that are interested in the program. 3 are ones that weren't interested and need a little nudge, so they got visited by code compliance, and the team is working with them to help find success. The purple dot is the old Smitty's location, and if you've been by, they're working diligently on what I believe is called Peoria Gateway apartment complex, and that's a fantastic project. In total, the businesses that are receiving the $62,000, I believe they're investing somewhere around $550,000 in total improvements. So this is a significant effort by not only the team, but the local businesses to latch on to the improvements that are being occurring in downtown. So it's super exciting to see. And thank you to the team for putting in the effort. I know it has been a challenge. Next, we have a quick video on March special events. When Mary Lou asked me if I was interested in continuing these videos, I did put a request in for metal music instead of that energetic tunes, but she clearly voided that request. We'll have to work on that one. That's it for this evening, Mayor.
Just one, at least just one. You know, that would be great. A report from Council Youth Liaison, Annika.
So the past week, we had the Youth Advisory Board held our 24th annual Youth Government Day. We had 350 8th graders show up from 21 elementary schools in the Peoria Unified School District, and they spent a day learning firsthand how the city of Peoria operates. We had 4 main areas that they visited: city council, libraries, public safety, and courts. Specifically for the city council, which was the session that Felicia and I were in charge of, we incorporated the topic of e-bikes with the assistance of Councilmember Edwards. We also had Mayor Pro Tem Bullock and the deputy city manager speak at this event. We also had the City of Glendale's vice mayor in attendance to observe how this event went, because they wanted to plan a similar event of their own. Overall, this was a very successful event. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is the mayor's report. So if you haven't driven by the front, our front yard, it's absolutely stunning. I know we had a huge event this weekend. It was very successful and very well received. It goes back. You really think about the 3 years ago, we started talking about this, kind of going down this process, looking at designs. We went out to the public and received a ton of public input, and actually let the public actually participate and actually make a big difference in the design aspects of how this was going forward. And this is also part of our master redevelopment project for not only public works here in the campus itself, in the next couple of months, we're going to have the new council chambers instead of being in this office, and that was part of this this process and plan as well. And it's been amazing to actually see it put together. So here is a quick video showing the project from start to finish. Love that. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it looks beautiful. It's what's amazing is I think, Mary Lou's been mentioned a couple of times. I think about the, 2 years ago, we went through this process. We had PUSD have a huge arts festival out front, and we had been talking about this change, and we were going down this path. And just to see it in action this weekend and actually see the tent set up where we literally talked about 2.5 years ago, and literally see all the engagement and people and all the kids on the grass and things like that is exactly what we talked about, and it came to fruition. So thank you for staff for putting all that together. Lastly, I'd like to recognize our new city manager, Mr. Mike Faust, but also recognize Mr. Henry Darwin, for being a catalyst to a big part of our change here in the city. When Mr. Darwin told me about the gentleman sitting to my right and talking about Mr. Faust and his intensity and all the things that he was going to bring to the table, and man, he wasn't lying. and I think it's absolutely incredible to see your path and your process of becoming the new city manager. And thank you for your service, not only to the state and what you've done for the state, but also this next venture with the city. So thank you. I will note we do have one speaker request form. I'm going to note that tonight. It was received late. I see it sitting there. So we will note that, and we'll pass out copies of that speaker request form to each of the council members. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.